Have you ever felt so sad, so ashamed, so depressed that you felt like you were unrecognizable? That's what Lamentations chapter 2 in these few verses here makes you feel like. I was trying to think of something to compare it to in my own experience, and it's interesting that I'll be coming back and studying this now. The reason I put it that way is because I was going to upload a video for Lamentations, the next part, or so I thought, and it turns out that I actually skipped this passage, and I was trying to figure out where did the video for verses 11 through 15 go, where to go. I don't know. I don't think I recorded anything, but at any rate, I'm coming back to it. I'm going to take that as a sign that God wanted me to see something here. That being said, I do resonate with some of it, and in connecting with it, I'm thinking about just how right now my mom has been in the hospital dealing with her mental health struggle. It's been 12, 13 days or so now, maybe 14. She's about to be transferred to another hospital. It's a little bit bigger, where they'll probably be able to get her some help that she needs. Man, it's tough because it's one of those situations where you feel like someone that you were able to recognize once upon a time. It's very difficult in a certain state, in this state, to recognize within that feeling of who is this person right now. There's also the feeling of helplessness. You feel like there's nothing you can do. You feel like everything that you would do or could do hasn't worked, and hasn't for years. And it's just tough. It's honestly one of those situations that I hate to say it, but if I'm being honest, in a lot of respects, it feels kind of hopeless. It's a roller coaster ride. And I think that perhaps part of the reason that I'm studying Lamentations at this particular moment, while things are in the midst of the downward turn on the roller coaster, for one, to help me realize that the things that I'm feeling and the things that I'm expressing and the lack of hope that I feel, this isn't the first time that God's heard that. And oddly enough, there is some comfort there in a strange way. This isn't something new for him, even though every time it happens to me, it feels like something new. At least with that in mind, I get to relate to the text in a real way that maybe I wouldn't have if things were on the upper end of the roller coaster while I was looking at this book. And to be honest, maybe I've been so carefree and whatever when it comes to life in general that I didn't see the need of reading a book like this and studying this before. And now I do. The bad things in this world happen because of sin. But I do think that God works in and within these different situations that happen to help us have a better mentality and a better perspective, and maybe just to feel like we're not alone in some cases when it comes to these things. And I think that's a valuable thing. That's where I'm connecting with this in a very real sense at the moment. I don't know what's going to happen with my mom. I can only hope that she gets the help that she needs and that she'll be better soon. You know, of all the times that similar things like this have happened in the past, this is one where it's taken a little bit longer than some of the other times. So, you know, that's weighing on the mind. It's weighing on the mind. Again, thinking through that and processing that, looking at these verses in particular, I believe that I can honestly say that God's timing is right. Things happen for a reason, and in the midst of all of this that's been going on in the background, while I'm struggling in many regards my own personal relationship with God, here I go to upload a video and realize that there's a part of this that I missed, and just feel impressed to sit down here and record and talk about. You guys know the drill. I put the questions down in the description below, the 4 questions I like to use when it comes to Bible study for making it practical, because If you can't make the Word of God practical, then there's really no purpose for it. Those questions are there. We're going to dive right into this and see what we got and tie it to real life, because the reality is that I'm not the only one going through something like this. And you'll probably hear me continue to say that in each one of these Lamentations videos in particular. But it's true. Everyone's going through something crazy every day, every moment, whether they're verbalizing it to you or not. Keep that in mind as you listen and as you go through the Bible. Listen for what God is saying to you, not just what I'm saying or my observations or the things that I'm getting from the text. Because it's going to be something different for you. Something that's going to impact you in a special way, and something that you'll be able to take and share with the people around you that'll help benefit them in a special way. So here we go. Lamentations chapter 2, verses 11 through 15. The lost verses. Verse 11. My eyes fail with tears. My heart is troubled. My bile is poured out on the ground because of the destruction of the daughter of my people, because the children and the infants faint in the streets of the city. We talked about, and I guess it goes further on. See, I'm talking about the next video already. But this idea that you don't have any more tears to cry. Your eyes fail of tears. Your heart is so troubled that you can't even express. You've seen people, I guess, on both ends of the spectrum, right? Where they're crying so much and there might be some wailing, and they get so tired of that action that they don't produce any more sound, but you can still see the grief in them. And on the flip side, you hear people who are laughing extremely hard, and when they get to a point where they're not making any sound anymore, but you can still see them doubled over with laughter. That's kind of what's happening here. It's getting to such a point that you have nothing left in you to express the thing that you're not ready to be done expressing. And because of what? Because of the destruction of the daughter of my people, because the children and the infants faint in the streets of the city. That's a bad sight. I may talk about this in another video, but just the other day, I finished watching this documentary on Jim Jones and People's Temple. And man, that was horrible. And when I think of this dude who, I'm not going to talk about my feelings, just the anger that welled up in me in watching this and seeing how he treated other people. When you think of the kids, come on, man. What he did to the kids and what he was trying to tell the parents to do, like, for your own freaking greed, man. That's sin and evil at its peak right there. And you know, that shot that they had in the documentary flying over the camp down there in Guyana, and you see all the people, and you hear the stories from the military that goes in, and they're talking about finding parents who have taken the poison and they're embracing their kids who have also taken the poison or were forced to be given the poison, and they're lying on top of them. Man, that's some dark stuff. That is some dark stuff. And I can only imagine. They talked about some of the survivors who went back and to try to identify some of the bodies, and just the emotion. You could see it. This was how many years ago that this happened? 78 or whatever. And these people being interviewed today and within the last, I guess recently, it just released a few days ago. But they're still showing the same emotion and the same response to those things that happened 30, damn near 40 years ago. It's crazy. And this wasn't, it was their world to a degree, but it wasn't the entirety of their home and their civilization. In a sense, yes. But man, I can't imagine. That's what comes to mind when I hear this verse here. That is a reason. That would be more than enough reason to have your heart fail and feel too troubled and your eyes fail for tears. Verse 12, they say to their mothers, where is grain and wine? And they swoon like the wounded in the streets of the city as their life is poured out in their mother's bosom. The idea of life being poured out, I kind of think of blood when you're if you're bleeding out, that's like life pouring out of your body. Blood and life are pretty synonymous in the Bible. But you talk about swooning in the streets, it's like people who there's this kind of delirium. People don't know what's going on. They're hurt and they're just rocking back and forth. They can't walk straight. You add this onto the picture we just saw from verse 11. This is hard, man. You have people who are so shaken from what they've experienced that it's got them totally out of their minds. It's a hard place to be. It's a hard place to imagine being. Verse 13. How can I console you? To what shall I liken you, O daughter of Jerusalem? What shall I compare you to, that I may comfort you, O virgin daughter of Zion? For your ruin is spread wide as the sea. Who can heal you? Listen to this. This is the line that I started the video with. Being unrecognizable. That's what I get from it. It's like if you were something that I'd seen before, like let's say, for example, a broken arm. I've seen that, so I know it can be healed. I've seen a broken leg. That could be healed. We can work with that. Your car broke down. We can fix that. Your house burned down. Okay, we can fix that. To what can I compare you almost makes it sound like this level of destruction. Destruction is the only word that comes to mind. But this level of devastation, desolation. It's so unrecognizable. It's like, man, can we fix this? Is there any coming back from this? That's like what the question is. Who can heal you? I don't know what this problem is. If someone's asking who can heal you, the implication is that they can't. And they don't know. So that's what it's like for these people living in the city or in the aftermath of what's happened to Jerusalem. It's crazy. Verse 14, your prophets have seen for you false and deceptive visions. They have not uncovered your iniquity to bring back your captives, but have envisioned for you false prophecies and delusions. Now, this is a sign that things are so bad and so unrecognizable that people are trying to lie to you just so you can hear something positive. And that's one of the worst positions to be in. It's like you have these people who are claiming to be prophets and claiming to have visions. And whatever you're going through is so bad, you're expressing it to them, you're telling them about it, they're seeing it. It's so bad that they're going to lie to you just to try to make you feel better because it's that bad. They don't even have anything legit to say. They're just going to straight up lie to you and tell you, hey, you know, this is why a lot of times when people are going through hard times, it's better to just sit with them instead of telling them it's going to be okay, because you don't know if it's going to be okay. And a lot of times people will go beyond just it'll be okay, and they'll say all this other stuff too, and it's like that's a whole lot of empty fluff that isn't really helping the situation right now. Imagine that the situation is so bad nobody wants to tell you the truth. I feel like I'm saying this after every verse, but that's a hard place to be in. It's a hard position to be in. Verse 15, all who pass by clap their hands at you. They hiss and shake their heads at the daughter of Jerusalem. Is this the city that is called the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? Now here you are in the midst of all of this devastation and destruction and depression. And because of what we thought we could be, because of what you were saying about yourself and how we carried ourselves in the midst of all the other nations, and they see this happen to us, the mockery comes. You talk about adding insult to injury. We have already suffered to such a degree that what we're going through is unrecognizable, and we don't know if we can be healed from it. But now the other people from the outside, they're looking at us and saying, weren't you supposed to be the best of the best? You call this beauty? This is supposed to be a joyful place? Look at what's going on here. Where's the joy? It's supposed to be the joy of the whole earth? How do you deal with a situation like that? I think in social media we see this often, right? People who are such big personalities or characters, whatever, they have a lot of people out there rooting for their downfall. When these people fail or when something doesn't go their way, you have a bunch of people celebrating that as if it's somehow a win for them, when it doesn't have anything to do with them. It's one of the strangest phenomena that I think we see in reality today. You think about the times that you might have failed at something. How many times did you have people yelling at you to your face how happy they were that you failed, or mocking you and saying, oh, you thought you were all this and this and that. You know, sometimes that may be deserved. I don't know the situation. But 9 times out of 10, if you hear something like that, your immediate response is going to be like, what does this have to do with you? And if it was something where you're experiencing a lot of pain and grief because of something that you've just lost, and then somebody comes mocking you, it just puts you even more in a pit of hell, man. That's where these people are right now. Now, again, I do have to say, based on the context, we know that part of this, in some regards, they were kind of advertising themselves like this to the people around, instead of inviting them to be a part of it. In part, that's why some of this is happening. We talked about that accountability in a previous video, so check that out. And we'll see a little bit more of that when we get to chapter 3. But at the same time, whether you brought it on yourself or not doesn't make it any easier to deal with. There's a lot of things that we know it's our fault why it happened. But when people call us out for it, it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. It doesn't make it any easier to swallow and to push through. And it definitely doesn't make us feel better about it. This book, Lamentations, man, I tell you, it's something else. I'm just going to say I'm grateful for a God who can handle this kind of stuff when I feel like I can't. I'm thankful for a God who is willing to stay connected with his people, even when by my life I'm showing that I'm not really trying to be connected with him. Thankful for opportunities to learn and to reflect and the space to do that. And I'm thankful for a God who's okay with that and can work with me through that. I think that's a real important thing to know and to understand. And a lot of times we look at God as if he doesn't care, or that he's making these things happen to us, so why would he care? That he's satisfied or looking at us with a smug look when we trip and fall, and when we lose things, and when our family members are struggling with their health. You know, I don't think that's a real picture of who God is. Lamentations tells me that. So I'm grateful for that. In the midst of the pain and the struggle, I'm grateful for that. But yeah, let me know what you think down below. Yeah. We'll see how it goes from here. And I'll catch you in the next one, alright? Peace.